In this video, Mikael Klangeby and yours truly will be discussing competitive Deathwatch, the end of Warzone Nephilim, and what the future with chapter-approved Arks of Omen might have in store for us. Mikael Klangeby has started playing Deathwatch about 2 years ago and is by now an established veteran who has been doing very well with our Deathwatch Army of Renown at various tournaments over these past few months, including 2 out of 3 tournament wins for Deathwatch during Warzone Nephilim. Over the course of the video, we will be diving into both Warzone Nephilim as well as the freshly teasered Arks of Omen GT mission pack, how to play the infamous Clangby-Style Proteus Kill Team, as well as the upcoming January changes in general, and the possible future of Deathwatch without the Army of Renown. At the end of the video, there will also be a quick summary with my personal key takeaways. Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Temmer, and I will be guiding you through this video. First of all, a big shout out to Mikael Klangeby for once more making the time to virtually sit together and have this chat about the Deathwatch. Mikael is regularly doing his own tournament coverage on his channel, Sector Ristrum. If you haven't checked him out yet, I highly recommend doing so, the link is in the description. If you have not seen our first episode from back in September yet, that link is also in the description. But without further delay, let's get started with the first topic at hand. So unfortunately, we cannot talk about the Army of Renown, or well, we can later, but we cannot talk about any Army of Renown updates, which is very, very unfortunate. But today, GW has given us a little present, and about that we can talk about the Arks of Omen preview that was released on Warhammer Community. Was very interesting. I'm quite hyped. But I thought before we go actually into that, I wanted to discuss with you a bit the whole deal about Warzone Nephilim. Warzone Nephilim is about to end soon. But I would say for both you and the Deathwatch, Warzone Nephilim has been quite a success, right?
Yeah, I would say so, because looking at the scores that we actually pulled off as Deathwatch and Marines overall, we have at least, I think, 4 wins, GT.
Are we up at 4? Well, I know for certain...
Three
we have, and 2 out of those 3 are yours.
Yeah, but still, it's the same army. I've just been playing a lot of tournaments this year. I don't remember how many I played, but I have been playing a lot this year.
Oh, you have.
So, so getting all the repetitions in and going to different tournaments and learning the opponents, I think that plays a big role as well. But I actually think Nephilim was so great because the secondaries played into our favor and Armor of Contempt aligned with it. I wouldn't say that it Nephilim and what was the
one before?
Previous?
It was Warzone Nachmund.
Nachmund.
I don't think we had any wins in Nachmund. Close ones, like 4-1 a couple, but I don't think we had any actual wins.
I think I pulled off a small one.
Ah, you did?
Maybe at the Viking Games once. Or
I'm
maybe
not giving you enough credits. I'm not giving you enough credit.
No, it might be in Nephilim. I'm mixing them up together. But still, playing Nephilim have been great because just the difference they made with the secondaries for our game, and together with Armor of Contempt, being able to play the defensive game with a very strong and army that can actually kill something, so we can just bait everyone into our trap and then kill them, like flat out. So it's played together with the Army of Renown, of course.
Yeah. Do you have any idea where you are currently standing on the ICT scoring? Because I imagine you must be quite high up, at least best in faction for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm still. Last time I checked, I was best in faction for Deathwatch, and last time I checked, I was also top 1 Scandinavia, and awesome. I was so. That's quite good for being a Marine player, playing only Marines, playing only Deathwatch. I'm the top player in ITC in Sweden. And also right now, if you look at the Swedish 40K score as well, they have another score just counting every tournament in Sweden, and I'm in top of that one right now also. So it have been a good year for Deathwatch, I would say.
Absolutely. But as you were saying, I think like we did not get many, let's say, Space Marine rule changes for Nephilim, but for us, I think it was simply the changes to secondaries. And as you were saying, you can play a bit more defensively. I think that really worked in your favor, I think, and in favor of the list you play with the two heavy teams, right?
Yeah, that you can. Many tables today are VTC orientated in Sweden, so they have quite a lot of terrain, I would say. If you looked at the stream from Fantasia Fanatic, you saw that there was a few big ruins, you have some small, so you can often, the Army of Renown ain't big, it's 50 bodies. You can almost always hide your whole army turn 1 in many events, which is in our favor. And then you can play the easy secondaries where you just hold back and playing the long vigil, and you have your banners, and then you have the last one because he's going to be offensive and try to kill you, as long as he's not just Marines as well and just trying to play the same game. So, but most people want to get out there and do stuff, and many people go for prisoners against us, so they want to kill us, so they are coming for us because we give up so many points.
Nice. I think, like, at least as far as I'm concerned, like back when I originally looked at the Warzone Nephilim rules, I was very much concerned about like getting the CP halved, and like the whole thing with the starting CP. I am the kind of person, I like to pre-invest a lot, and like I would often start with 5 or 6 CP back when we had 12. Like, how did for you the whole thing work out now over the course of this season? Like with the CP, with specialism, extremists, like how did that go?
I would say in the beginning of the end of Nachmund and the beginning of Nephilim, I was playing very hard on playing the stratagem, just 3 CP, saving up for it. I wanted to do it many times. And then we were hit with the Nephilim, and I started to build around how can I build to use the stratagem. Until I noticed that I don't actually need to use the stratagem all the time. I can win games without using Specialism Extremis. I can win games by playing the secondary game and have that like an extra pool if I need. Because when I started playing Beacon, I didn't do that from the beginning. I didn't have the Watchmaster from the beginning.
Okay.
It evolved over time. So from the beginning, I tried to have 2 CP. So my round 1, I had 3. So I always could do an Alpha Punch. And that was my play for the first part of the year in Nachmund, and also in the part of the beginning of Nephilim. I didn't actually understand how to play, so I tried to always bait my opponent to come out so I can do a hard out Alpha Punch, and I many times overreached and played that Alpha Punch as well. I tried to go out of my whole army, charge with White Scar, spend points on Specialist Extremis, and try to cripple him turn 1. But I lost a few games doing that. And then I learned, why not wait for him and start by just standing there, keep my whole army safe, and start scoring, getting him stressed. Just standing on 2 objectives, scoring 10-8 every round, and start scoring Long Vigil and banners. He's going to get stressed, he's going to make mistakes. And then we have whole army, we have the CP to play the specialism, we have the Beacon Angelist, so the rest of the army also reroll all wounds. And then all hell breaks loose.
So it's kind of like with the changes to secondaries, you realized, okay, I can actually play the defensive game. I can just wait. I don't have to throw all my stuff into the opponent's face and do like the Alpha Punch with the Extremis specialism, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I faced off some Knights players in the beginning. I was so stressed because they shoot Marines off the table so easy. So how am I going to play the game? I have to hide. But they need to move forward because they need to be in the middle, pushing the button, doing their secondary game. So I found out, oh, I can wait. I can play the game mid-game, turn 2, 3. Yeah, there's where my punch come. Then,
like how relevant would you say were the extra CP like round 4 or 5? Would you say in the majority of games the game was already decided anyway, or were there like situations or like close games where it really gave you the extra edge to have the extra CP later on?
Looking back at the season, it differs a bit. One of my toughest events was the Games of Westeros, where I finished, I think, in third place. Most of the WTC Swedish team was there. All the great players in Sweden attend that event. A lot of great players. So in that games, I had to play more strategic, and in the end, I remember playing against Jonathan Slade Johnson. Our game was a draw, and we had like one model each in the end of the game, and just trying to get those last points of score. So then the last CP could make a huge difference because you can do that extra small defensive strat or something, so you survive. Otherwise, in many games, when you face off maybe a less routine player, they often take the bait. I bait them out in the middle, and then they get tabled in maybe round 2, 3.
Okay.
So even though you tell them that if you move up your army here, all your demons will die, and they say no because they are Nurgle and they're toughness 9 and they will survive. Okay, but I told you I do a lot of damage, yes. And then, yeah, shit happens.
There it goes.
Yeah, because I don't like to play gotcha games. I tell them I can do this, and I can do all of this. And I try to remind people, if you do like that, but it's also psychological things in the game. If someone is doing something, you can always throw out. If you go there, remember I can do this. I can heroic intervene with this team. They have a Jon Snow, a Black Shield running around.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes it's just saying that you can do something is worth more than actually doing it.
Yeah, exactly, because that's going to cost me a CP. Exactly. But just telling him might just keep him off the objective. Maybe he's, I don't want to sacrifice this unit. I will play some other game. He's using his time, thinking a lot, getting stressed for something I just told him. And it's true. I just remind him, if you do that, I will heroically intervene. I will kill your unit. Okay, so.
I get it, yeah. I'm also curious about your Spectre's Kill Team. I think you really put the Lord of Deceit back into, let's say, you see it in every list now. I think we were running it for a couple months, then it kind of was about to fade out. And as you have it back in your list for like Warzone Nephilim, it really, I think by now everyone has it. So how would you say, like, I think at the beginning it plays a very important part that you can do this redeploy, and of course you screen your back for the long Witchill. Did you actually get to do any aggressive plays with your Spectre's Kill Team at all?
No, I would say I use it mainly for the secondary game as well, because I want to be able to score either the Deathwatch one where we cripple stronghold.
Yeah, that one.
Cripple stronghold or banners. So I always put both teams up ahead, stretched out over different objectives in no man's land. Because if I'm going first, they can start score. I can fill up with the rest of the army behind. And if I go second, I don't want to sacrifice them. I done it in maybe one game. I tried to bait out a Tyranid player because I put one of the teams in the middle of the map, on the mid objective, hidden in a ruin, and he actually pulled out his big warrior blobs. It was a Leviathan one, and he charged them because he didn't want me to have the banner or the team out there, and it was just what I wanted, because now his big obsec unit with a lot of damage is in the open, and I could kill it easily. So then I sacrificed my 5-man. 1.5, not the last Fusilgeist.
No, those are too important.
Yeah. So, but even though I would say I deploy them aggressively, I try to put out the snipers quite early to force the enemy to think about, okay, if they are there, I can't have anything stand here. But I don't tell them, because I always pull back the snipers, because I don't want them in the middle of the field. They will get killed. I want them in the back, just giving covering fire on the important things coming out, so, and screening my backfield. So I put them out there almost every game, but I always pull them back.
Nice. So looking back at the events you played, which one was your favorite?
Going to the Viking games is always fun, because they have such a nice atmosphere. It's a small event, like 40 players just. It's very chill. Everyone is very friendly, and they have a lot of different tables. They look great. They are cool. Maybe remember the pictures I showed you from.
Yeah. You showed
Yeah.
that looked fantastic. That was
Yeah,
an epic. That was an epic table.
Yeah. So, but the tables aren't that competitive. So it's a hard tournament in that kind of sense, because you're standing on a table and there's no fucking cover anywhere. So, but still, it's a chill game. And also, Game of Westeros was great because of the high likelihood of facing off against the top players in Sweden, because everyone is there. It's it's around 100 players as well, and all the top players live in mid Sweden. Or travel there is easy because it's in the middle of Sweden, so everyone can go. Everyone can go.
That's very cool, very cool. Did you have like a least favorite matchup where you were saying, okay, that list was really not fun to play against?
I remember first time playing Chaos Space Marines.
The new ones.
Yeah, the new ones, Chaos Space Marines. Because I hadn't played them, I hadn't practiced before, so just standing there, don't know how I can damage him, how I'm gonna play around it. I don't know his secondary game.
Yeah.
It was so boring game, because we were just standing. He was afraid of me, I was afraid of him. We were standing in our deployment zone, and I was just calculating, okay, how I'm gonna win this game. And I found out if I'm just standing here, just denying him his last secondary, which was prisoners, I'm gonna win technically. And then because I went second, so last round I can just charge up on one of his corners, bring down one of his banners with my obsec, and raise one for my own, and he can't raise it enough in time to score in the end game. So I knew I was gonna win on technically just maybe 5 points. So it was like a 12-8 or 11-9. But it was a challenging game. But it was hard because I didn't know what to do. So we're just standing in my deployment, not moving anything. So quite boring.
I think I remember that from your stream. It's a little bit like that. Okay, you see how you can win, but actually executing it feels not natural. You know, like not playing the game is like
just standing still and moving things and just flipping the. I didn't like the game.
I can imagine. Cool. So switching over to the Arks of Omen GT pack. I have to say, when I saw the preview today, I got a little hyped. So I think what we know so far, there's going to be a new flexible detachment. I think it's very cool, if I understand it correctly. So you have one mandatory HQ, and then basically you can select 3 of basically any battlefield role, including Lord of War. And it gives some interesting options, because I think especially for the elite slots, you can like take the standard like 3 instead of troops. You take 3 elites, and then you can add another 3 elites, and then you can even do 3 character elites. And so you could be like up to 9 elites, which of course I immediately thought, well, for the general Space Marine army, that's fantastic. But then I was thinking, well, for the Deathwatch is a little bit, well, I don't know whether we're gonna be making much use of that. I don't know. What did you think?
First when I looked, I thought, this is gonna be cool. But then, exactly like you thought, but it won't matter at all for Deathwatch. For Marines in general, maybe. But for Deathwatch, everything is troops.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe if you're playing the Dreadnought list that you played a year ago, but still, then you had like 5 Dreadnoughts, so you still have spots open. The big thing, the big change I think that we can benefit from is you can have 4 HQs.
Yes, I saw that, the extra HQ.
So being able to put in 1 extra psyker or maybe something like that can tweak a lot, but still you're gonna lose troops, and you need the troops to do the damage. But you have the option now, because now you can bring that extra HQ without taking an extra detachment, and that is something you can start playing around.
It might be interesting because, I mean, at the moment we always max out the 3 HQs.
Yeah.
And I remember that there might be list opportunities where you think, okay, I might want a 4th in fact. That could be interesting. But as you said, then you don't have enough troops. But then again, if we would get, let's say, a couple discounts on the troops and everything in general, maybe we can fit in a 4th HQ. But yeah, in regards to the elite slot, I was also thinking, well, okay, in what situation would I build a list where I would need it? And the only thing that came to my mind is, okay, let's say in the next update, the elite slots became so awesome for Space Marines that even we would take the elites.
Yeah,
instead. But then the point is, okay, then why wouldn't we just play another chapter in the first place? You know,
exactly.
It just doesn't make sense.
Then you bring your Dark Angels, Deathwing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's great for them because now you have 6 big elites and 3 characters plus the 4 HQ. So playing Deathwing, Dark Angels will be so easy. No Vanguard. Everything is 0 CP.
Yeah, exactly.
You bring what's his name, Azrael, 2 extra CP. So you start with 8. Yeah.
Then I think the one advantage I could think of is, okay, if people start to bring less troops, let's say like all the Space Marines or whatever, they just fill in the elites or whatever, they don't bring troops anymore. Now we have all troops depending on how we spec our list. So we have a lot of OPSEC and the other lists will have less OPSEC. And also it depends, like now certain missions favor troops for certain, like for certain actions or whatever. And maybe if we just bring more troops and more OPSEC against other armies bringing less, maybe that will create a little advantage. But I suppose we have to see how that works out or not.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge advantage because I think it's exactly what's going to happen. People are going to get very happy about, oh, I can bring the cool list and bring all the crazy stuff.
All the crazy models, yeah.
Yeah, but still, how do you win the game? You win the game by playing the primary and the secondary game and scoring the primary and the secondary game. And a lot of secondaries are done easier with OPSEC or troops. And a lot of the primary, you win that with OPSEC. You just move one model up, you have it. So I think it's a huge favor for us that other people might be going away from troops, going away from the OPSEC. That's going to play in our benefit. So that's one good thing with this new detachment. People will be moving away from OPSEC to bring more cool stuff, which is going to favor our army.
I think it depends also a little on how they do the new missions. And I really hope they keep the advantages, as you mentioned before, of the troops. So I kind of always like this idea of the troops not being that strong usually, well, except for us, but let's say for the other armies, they are not that strong, but they become...
Get the job done.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. And that really helps. So I think they should keep that kind of setting so the missions stay like they are in that regard. So if people don't have them, it won't work as nicely.
They also mentioned there that they tweaked the secondary game regarding timing. So it won't matter if you go first or second as much as it did now in Nephilim, because playing Nephilim, some missions, you were like smoked if you didn't go second, because you could score like 20 points if you're going second and you just have troops left. So just move them out in the last. So I hope they've done a lot. But one thing that scared me a bit was when they were talking about the Marine and the Chaos Space Marine secondary. It felt like, okay, they're going to have 3 Space Marine ones and one per
chapter, right?
Yeah, one per supplement. So Deathwatch secondaries will be erased, and we will have 1, and Space Marine 3.
The way I read the article was that every Space Marine chapter gets an extra new secondary.
Okay.
I don't think we're losing. Well, we have to reread the article, but I was reading that one very specifically because at the beginning I was like, whoa, no, what is happening? But the way I think it says, you get 1 extra, like each chapter gets one extra secondary.
Okay, yeah, we can hope that. I was a bit afraid that the Space Marines as a whole and Chaos Space Marines as a whole will have their 3, because every army is going to have 3, like they tweaked it. And then I thought, okay, so the supplement, because they showed off like I think Emperor's Children and Salamanders.
Yeah, exactly.
and they just showed one from them each. So I thought, okay, so it's the Space Marine 3 ones plus the Salamanders have one, and then I thought, okay, are they doing the same to Deathwatch? They are taking away, I hope.
Taking away the long vigil.
I hope they keep the long vigil and scrap the 2 other ones. But well, we'll see. It will be very interesting.
Absolutely.
So
well, what would be very ironic, I think in the Army of Renown, we have that relic no one ever took, where you can swap the secondary and then you could take an extra. So let's assume we would get an extra nice one and we wanted to take 2 of them, but then we don't have the Army of Renown anymore. No. We don't have the relic.
We don't know that yet.
We don't know that, but it would suck.
Yeah. I actually listened to maybe a pod or something. I think it was Art of War, and they were discussing, because it's not just Deathwatch Army of Renown that is going away. And they weren't talking about Deathwatch Army of Renown. They were talking about a lot of other things.
Okay.
And their discussion was about all the books going away is something that GW never done before. Huh. So, like, their take in that discussion was, they're just waiting for the 1st of January when the press release will come, and they will say, all the books are renewed. And they were talking more generally, because why would the books disappear? People paid money for these. I can understand Leviathan is excluded because there is a new codex.
Yeah.
But why would other books that actually works right now disappear? That was their discussion. And it wasn't about Deathwatch, it was about something else in the books. And then I thought, okay, so maybe it's not just us thinking about this, and maybe it is possible that, January 2nd, there will be a press release. All the books are renewed for another season.
Surprise,
we'll see. It will
surprise. Well, what
it
can
will
I say? Earlier this week, I wrote again to the FAQ team and told them, like, guys, it's expiring. But I don't know if they read these kind of mails. But who knows? Maybe I'm misjudging them badly.
We will see. It's going to be so interesting. And but I'm also looking forward to unfolding the whole Ark of Omen to see what are the missions, what are the secondaries, how will they change the primary game, are there any other changes? It's going to be, I'm looking very much forward to that.
Well, January is going to be very, very interesting. I'm looking also very much forward to that. Which is actually a good point. Like in the last couple of weeks, there have been a lot of like these MetaWatch articles. They spoiled a little bit the upcoming changes, but let's say I loved how GW went from, Space Marines are fine, it's just beginners pulling down the win rates, to, I think Space Marines are not so fine after all. And also we reappeared on the chart, like on the chart, but like at the second bottom edge.
Yeah, but it's so swingy, and we have to remember that because Deathwatch, like I think if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, it was one player attending one event playing 5 games, and he won maybe 1 or 2, so he has a 20% win rate, and that's all the was the only actual competitive game played by a Deathwatch player. So it will be a very swingy statistics. It could have been like, if I was the only one going to a tournament that period, and it was one of the ones where I won the game,
100% win rate.
100%, yeah. So it's very hard to just look at the numbers to see. But I think Marines were slacking off. But it's gonna be very. Did you see that fake rumor thing flashing up and disappearing as?
There are so many rumors going on at the moment, and you never know, like, are they real? Are they not real? At this point, I have no idea what's going to happen.
It was a short thing on Reddit. I think it was like a data slate leak. It was called, where they said that Marines are gonna get the bonus, the AP bonus stacking.
Yeah, I saw that one, and
scouts were gonna be obsec, and that was about Marines.
Great for the Deathwatch. We cannot take scouts.
But then it was confirmed. It was just a rumor. But it's gonna be so. Not only Ark of Omen, they're also gonna be a data slate quite soon. So we have a lot of things looking forward to. Even though the Army of Renown maybe be long gone, we still have Arks of Omen and a new data slate, so we're going to be able to start a workshop. So I think you and I should have a talk in maybe 1 month from now and see, because it's going to be so different from
absolutely, now. Absolutely. Like at this point, I'm just, waiting it out for like mid to end of January until we have all the rules, and then I'm starting to redo my list and everything. I think you mentioned at some point that I think your list, even without the Army of Renown, would work pretty well. Well, of course, it depends on the mission and how the rest changes, but like, I mean, how are you going about this? Are you like waiting it out, or are you already thinking about how you could change the list?
But if you look at it, playing the mission, I would play the mission the same way. I would still hold back my whole army, hide it, play the long vigil, play banners, and something that kill him. Okay? So the Army of Renown right now ain't doing anything for me until I try to do damage and doing all the flexible things, being able to advance and charge, or being having all my bolters flipping sixes, and so that's the only thing we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose some damage and some threat range, but still, those teams, they don't need advance and charge when you're playing the defensive game, because when you're actually moving out and charging, people are already in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
We're standing in a ruin a few inches into the table. When you stretch them out, you are moving almost 14 inch with the first piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have +2 on the charge and +3 on the piling. You're still going to make it. So actually, I think the Army of Renown has been a great thing. And I think I've been playing it so much, so I've been feeling sad that it's going to go away.
Yeah.
But if I look at the hard data,
yeah.
what is it bringing? It brings me some extra DPS.
Mm-hmm.
When I do the ignore cover, what is it? The Imperial Fist.
Yeah.
Exploding sixes and ignoring cover, which is great. Ignoring cover and exploding sixes, it's so fantastic. But that's the only thing. And having some extra, maybe, defense against mortal wounds.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, okay.
But and the stratagem, of course, is great. But if you do the beacon, you still have a quite high damage output. So I think we can play the same army depending on the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Some matches will be harder. We had a very nice game into a lot of things, but I think we still can pull off quite a decent game without the Army of Renown.
Should be possible, yeah, because as you were saying at the beginning, I mean, Specialism Extremist, it's of course still great to have, but you moved away from just, I need to do this and I need to do this at the beginning, to, okay, if I can use it, let's say in the middle of the match, like once, is already a great extra. So of course you would lose that, but for as long as you can still play the defensive game, we might not be as bad off. But as you said, Imperial Fists is nice. White Scars occasionally. Yeah. Black
Templars
against
That was the three main ones. I think I switched in between, and maybe round one sometimes you didn't take anything because you were still gonna just hide the army and saving up for later game. So
yeah, you can do something defensive. One you can spare. You think, okay, I'm not gonna use that anyway later, and
or just being Deathwatch.
Or just being Deathwatch. Why not? Exactly. So you took the Mikael Costello kill team and optimized it. I like to call it now by your name, because I think you made several quite drastic improvements to it. So maybe for those who are not that familiar with how Mikael Costello started, so what Mikael Costello did, it was even before AOC, and it was even before the Army of Renown, if I remember correctly. So
I think the Army of Renown was actually out already, out. But it was during Nachmund, I think he started playing that team. So I don't remember when the Octarius book actually came out, but it was during Nachmund.
Must have been close. Must have been. Yeah.
And see, I have all my pieces standing here, but the base team that he had was bringing a lot of Terminators. Which
exactly. He had the hammers on them, and they were of course slow. And what I also always disliked is, okay, they also have the storm shields, but then if you want to tank shots on those storm shields and they for some reason die, well, you also lose the hammers. It's really not what's supposed to be happening. And he only made use of a single heavy thunder hammer, which he put on the sergeant, because of course the vets have the limit of 1 hammer per 5, which the Van vets do not have. And then you started to make the changes, and as far as I recall, that was post AOC. I think when you started doing the changes, we already had AOC as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think during Nachtmund, I started out playing Mikael Costello's style in my first tournament in Nachtmund. And during the end of Nachtmund, I think I tried out playing one team that was a bit faster. I just took away maybe one Terminator for one extra Vanvet, maybe not even with Thunderhammer. I think I just had a shield or a claw on that one, just getting the speed up.
Get the extra movement, yeah.
Yeah, extra movement. So you can, because I think in the original team, he also only had one bike and one Vanvet.
Yes, yes, and he even used the Vanvet with the chainsword just for access to the Melter Bomb stratagem and the stratagem for which one is the Vanvet. The Vanvet is fall back and shoot. Well, okay, though for his kill team, I never understood how relevant that would be in the first place.
No. So the big thing with that team was it was very sturdy, but as you said, the sturdiness or the resilience in the team is in the damage. So if you're losing, the team, you're losing the damage. The big changes I made was this team is too slow, I thought, because the bike move up just a short bit, and the guys coming behind are too slow because within 2 inches of the bike, you had to have one guy that only moved 6 inches. Because, of course, the Vanvet could move, but you need 2 within 2 if you're going to stay within coherency. So that was why I, in the first place, threw in one extra Vanvet. Because then, okay, now I can use the full move of the bike. So that was my first experiment. I still had all the damage in my Terminators, like the Costello's team. So I just brought one extra Vanvet to the bike, so the bike could do its full move. 2 inches behind the bike base, you had 2 Vanvets for coherency, and 2 inches behind those two guys, you had the first one that's moved 6. Okay, now you have the mobility. And then I started playing like that, and then I was feeling this thing that, the Terminators doesn't always get into the fight because someone always dies on the way.
Yeah.
And then I started to experiment with bringing the Vanvets with heavy Thunderhammers, and the DPS just went skyrocketed. And I kept one Terminator for quite a long time, especially when a Arm of Contempt hit the street. Just having one in cover, just all the small guns fire coming in, they could just tank it so easily. And especially if they had Fortified with Contempt on them with a 5-up Feel No Pain as well. So having that Terminator with a 1-up save in cover and also Armor of Contempt and also a 5-up Feel No Pain, they didn't die.
And also, and in case if he died, it was not a big loss. You didn't basically need him.
No, for the damage, because damage is in all the heavy Thunderhammers.
Yeah. And of course, that nice way about going about the heavy Thunderhammers, because the Vanvets don't have the limit. As many Vanvets as you take, as many heavy Thunderhammers you can have on them, which is awesome. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So it's very good. So you overkill a lot instead.
Fair enough. But one thing I have been curious about, like with your more defensive playstyle, I think Mikael Costello, he is known for his very aggressive playstyle and, throwing all those teams into the opponent's face and whatnot. But how do you go about playing those kind of teams with a more defensive playstyle? Like, how do you go about, setting them up, moving them over the course of the game?
If you look at the standard table, many big tournaments, they don't play the Dawn of War maps. So it's very rare that you have the very, long deployments on each side. Very few games. Almost all the games are played like Hammer in Anvil, or like going from one corner, and it always turns into Hammer and Anvil. And VTC train or Games Workshop train are in our favor, because if you play Games Workshop tables with those big blobby ruins, but you're just standing on the objectives in that ruin in the middle of the table with a team that has a 14-inch threat range. It's more, because they move 14, and then you can advance them, or you could at least, and then they have +2 on the charge.
Nice.
So people, if you just position them in the ruins on your half of the table, you're still gonna own half the table, and you don't need to own more like a Deathwatch. If you're holding the 2 objectives on your side and the middle one, you're winning the game. And if they try to come to the middle, yeah, you have a 14-inch move without white scars, without advanced charge. So I just position them so they can threat the mid table.
Yeah.
I don't pull them out. I pull them inside ruins, so they have a threat range all over the table, 1 in each side, preferably. And then I have my big shooting teams split up, and then I screen the backfield with my Spectres. So Spectres in the backfield, screening everything. The shooting teams in cover, the melee teams in cover, just baiting him out. And when he offers something nice, you kill.
You go for it.
But if they offer, that's the hard part. If someone has played Deathwatch before, and they know because many people think like this. Marines, I can just kill Marines.
Yeah.
I just shove my whole knight armies and run over this Marine fucker. And they try that, and then they get the opposite happens because they don't kill us because we were hidden, and they didn't know that we could punch so hard back. So that I think is my play style. So I play passively aggressive. I play very aggressive when I have the shot, and until I have the shot, I don't try to stress my opponent by playing aggressively all over the table.
Yeah.
I hide my army, and when I get the shot, I go all out aggressive, and then you can't spare anything because when you're gonna be aggressive, go out there and punch with everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there certain specific strategies in regard to those guys you employ against certain armies? Like, are there instances when you make use of combat squads, for instance, or do you always keep them together as a 10-man blob as originally intended, or are there any recommendations for that?
During Nachmund and the start of Nephilim, I always combat squadded one of my Indomitor teams, so I played the missions. I kept maybe 5 heavy intercessors in my backfield standing on the objective, and then I had the 3 flamers and the 2 inceptors in a deep strike coming down. That was quite an often play. I always combat squad my Spectres kill team. But otherwise, I've been keeping my big melee teams like 10 bricks because I want to have the extra bodies, because people damage Marines so easily. Yeah. So you don't want to lose the DPS because then the team isn't worth anything. And having 10 man on an objective of 8 obsec is also very good. And if someone charges with 2 teams, they are gonna charge me. They will have maybe kill off half the team. Then you can intercept and fight with the DPS part. And then maybe shut down the second part that he charged with, and also inflict damage on the other part. And having fight first when you pull that spell off as well, you can intercept for free as well. So
that's nice.
So the melee teams I never split. The Indomitor teams in some.
I also noticed like you keep I would say up to 3 storm shields on the regular wets. Even with the AOC, I suppose that's because of all the high AP, and it kind of turned out to be still useful, or like how did you approach that one?
Yeah, if someone is shooting maybe Tyranids with big guns or things with high AP, there's still high AP out there, and when they get shots in, it's so boring saving on a 5 or a 6 because people die so easily. But having that, maybe having 3 4-ups, that is making people have to commit so much harder trying to kill this team off, because when you're rolling hot on 4-ups, people are just getting so frustrated. They put so much into it, and all their high AP is stuck on that 4-up, and then you're rolling hot, and sometimes you have 3 5-up feel no pains to take, and you roll 3 5-ups as well, so you can see how cranky they get. But I find them very it's 5 points each, it's 15 points on each team, and they make them so much more resilient to high AP things. So
even with the AOC is still worth it, and the math at the 4-up just works out so much better. Coming to the 4-ups, like the hammers are all hitting on 4-ups, like how do you go with support characters to make the hammers more reliable? Because hitting on 4-ups is not necessarily that great.
No, but also you can have almost always full rerolls to hit.
Okay, so almost. You count primarily on the full rerolls.
Yeah, and you also, if you get the spell off, you have +1.
Yeah.
So you get the spell off, That's quite important. You have the melee team, one of them, you put a spell on it. They are now hitting on a 2-up, but going up to a 3-up with the -1. And then you have either the Chaplain or the Watchmaster buff.
Yeah.
So either the Chaplain is there giving full rerolls to hit to everyone in melee, or you have put the Watchmaster buff on the team before they run away. The Watchmaster buff is so important both for shooting and in combat, because you have full rerolls to hit.
I'm really happy that we
things,
can have the Watchmaster again since the AOC change. That really worked in his favor. Beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Very, very.
Yeah.
So now you're hitting on 3s with one team. Maybe you're just charging with one team. If they bait something out, something important, and you just shove in one team, they are hitting on 3s with full rerolls. So you're gonna hit with a lot. And then you have full rerolls to wound, maybe.
Depending. In the best case, you have. That's very nice. So basically, you have in your list, let's say the Watchmaster and the Librarian are slow support characters. Like, how does it work out for you to have them keep up? Like, do you have any advice on that? I think you have to be very aware on where you're going to be next, of course, so they can keep up with the rest. Or is this in your defensive game far more easy to keep them along?
Yeah, because that is also one key part. In the beginning of the Nephilim, I played a biker captain, like I did in Nachtman, because you wanted him on the bike with the shield.
Yeah,
and
I have the same. Yeah.
But now when you're playing on your half of the table, I don't go over the midline because I don't have to. And then having a support character advance up into cover, standing there in the ruin, together with the guys. You're playing the game on your half of the board. You are strong on one side. You have all your HQs and the main part of your army there, and you have something on the other flank. They can keep up, because round 1 you're just moving into position and hiding everything. And then from there you're just waiting for him to come, and then you use the buffs. I would say in my game, if I were playing more aggressively and trying to overflow the board, I think they would have a hard time catching up, because in some games where I've been more pushing, like for instance in a Tau game in the Viking War games, I pushed a lot of people up in the board, and then people were away from the buffs, and then our army gets so much worse when they don't have all the buffs. When they're not re-rolling and hitting on 4s, it's not so good.
Then hitting on 4-ups is really no fun, right? That's why I was asking at the beginning, because that makes all the difference. Do you think on those teams there are, with what we currently know about the rules, any changes or like anything left to optimize? Because you added in the Van Vets, you added in the heavy hammers, you kept a couple shields. Like with the armies that got updates as of late, did you ever think, okay, maybe I'm gonna do another change, like to the loadouts or?
Yeah, maybe to the loadouts. We will see what happens to AOC. We will see what happens to the AP stacking, and it's a lot of points having all big heavy thunderhammers. And but still, damage 4 is so good, because the people that have a -1 damage are still doing damage. They get wrecked anyhow. So Terminators with -1 damage, it's not a problem, because we will still be damaged 3.
Maybe they decrease the heavy hammers in points. That would be my dream. That would be my dream.
But maybe I've been toying with the thought, maybe going from 3 to 2 shields, saving 5 points there, and maybe bring a shotgun on one dude instead, because it's free and it has a lot of profiles, and you can overwatch against Eldar. Nice with it. So of course there are small changes that can be tried out, but the main part, having that black shield together with the Van Vets, together with the Sergeant, doing so much damage, it's insane. When you pick out the dices for Jon Snow, as I call him, the Black Shield.
The Black Shield.
And they say, and then they say, was that the unit? No, that was that guy. And they like freak out. But one guy, all those attacks,
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But into Xenos when you play the strat for 1 extra attack as well.
And also by default, he is hitting on 3+ with the hammer. I mean, that one is epic. That one is epic.
Exactly. But people, when they see the team start crippling down, people are dying, But remember, the damage is in those few units. When you're already at the enemy, let the bike take the damage as well. He won't be bringing anything in, because when you're there, everything can die. You just want your black shield, you want the sergeant, and 1 or 2 of the van vets. If you have 2 van vets, the sergeant and the black shield left, 4 guys out of 10, they will do insane amount of damage. They will bring down knights easily. So people maybe feel like, oh, everything died. Yeah, but not the important part.
Yeah.
The rest of things are there to deliver. The bike is there to deliver, and the other bodies are there to deliver and get killed on the way. So, yeah. So don't be spooked by your team dying, and that's why you don't split them. Keep them as 10-man groups. You can take the punch and still have all the damage left when you get there.
You can basically lose over half, and it will still be fine. That's actually the cool thing about it.
Yeah, the cool thing about it. And you can charge 2 teams. It doesn't matter. Or you can let someone heroic intervene. You don't matter, because they will kill the things you don't need when they interrupt. So.
Yeah.
And you can also charge something with fight last.
Yeah.
Because it won't be a problem, because even that fight last guy, they might kill, if it's something very hard that will kill the whole team. Yeah, sure. But having that 3 shields with a 4 up invulnerable, and the rest of the bodies, and the bike with 3 wounds, it's a high likelihood that you will have 4 models left when it's time for you to punch, and then those 4 models do so much damage.
That's all you need, basically. That's all you need. Awesome. To wrap things up, I would summarize my key takeaways as following. The Warzone Nephilim mission and secondary changes have allowed for Deathwatch to play a more defensive game, which Mikael has executed over the course of multiple tournaments with great success. The long vigil and the ability to screen our backfield easily with the Spectre's kill team in particular stand out here. While the CP changes have certainly been felt, this more defensive playstyle can also compensate for the potential lack of stratagem-heavy alpha strikes, for instance with Specialism Extremis. During deployment, the Spectre's kill team with Lord of Deceit can be used as some extra bait, but the main goal here is to use the redeploy to then pull them back to safety and use them for the previously mentioned screening tactics. While I personally like the new Arks of Omen detachment, both Mikael and I agreed that there is no direct advantage for Deathwatch when compared to other Space Marine chapters, leaning more heavily into elites, though there might be cases when a 4th HQ option might be interesting. As it currently stands, the 3 slots are always maxed anyway. Nonetheless, we might indirectly benefit in case other army lists move away from taking troops, and as a result end up making the OPSEC of our kill teams even more powerful. Ultimately, it largely depends on how the new missions and secondaries will look like. We were not sure whether the teasered secondary for every Space Marine chapter was one extra to what we already have, or an actual replacement. We will have to wait and see about that. While the potential loss of the Army of Renown might hurt Deathwatch overall, a more defensive playstyle and using the tools that we have left, like the Tomb of Ectoclades, Beacon and Chalice, the Watchmaster who is back in business, and of course the Clangby-Style Proteus Kill Team, remain powerful tools at our disposal. Speaking of which, the Clangby-Style Kill Team evolved from the original Costello-style Kill Team, increasing both its mobility and damage output by moving away from the slow Terminators and going for Vanwets with heavy Thunderhammers instead. The main goal here is to deliver the hammers, meaning the standard wets and even the biked act as ablative wounds, and taking an extra storm shield or 2 still goes a long way in upping survivability, even in the times of AOC. This kill team is here to stay well beyond the AUR and Warzone Nephilim. As a heads up, I will be releasing a dedicated video to playing the Clangby-Style Proteus Kill Team with graphical illustrations, in addition to Mikael's explanations in the near future. Then finally, once again a big thank you to Mikael Klangeby for making the time for this chat, and I am looking forward to discuss in more detail whatever we will get in January in the near future. So that's it for this special episode with Mikael Klangeby, where we discussed both Warzone Nephilim as well as the freshly teasered Arks of Omen GT mission pack, how to play the infamous Clangby-Style Proteus Kill Team, as well as the upcoming January changes in general and the possible future of our Deathwatch without the Army of Renown. What do you guys think about these particular topics? And are you as hyped about Arks of Omen as we are? Are you already preparing for a life without the Army of Renown? Or are you keeping your hopes up to the last day? Let us know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.